young mother doing everything she could to protect her daughter. Annastasia Diane Hester, known to her friends as Anne, had already weathered hardship, losing her father young, going through a divorce, and working hard to provide for her child. But no one could have imagined the horror she would face in the early hours of June 10, 2016. It was just before 3 a.m. when a chilling 911 call came through to emergency dispatchers in Gresham, Oregon. Anne was gasping for breath, her voice panicked and broken. She had been stabbed over and over, and she was still fighting to stay alive. "Someone tried to kill me," she said. Her words faded into the sounds of her agony. Police rushed to her one-bedroom apartment. It was a scene of chaos and unimaginable violence. Blood covered nearly every surface. There were signs of forced entry, and investigators immediately noticed the air conditioning unit had been removed from the window, replaced from outside with a cinder block. Someone had broken in. Someone had meant to kill. Anne was still alive when paramedics arrived, but just barely. She was rushed to the hospital where, despite every effort, she succumbed to her wounds. The autopsy would later reveal she had been stabbed more than 60 times. Wounds ranged from half an inch deep to more than 8 inches. Nearly every major organ was pierced. As horrific as the crime was, the first question detectives needed to answer was terrifying in a different way. Where was her daughter? To everyone's relief, the child was safe. She was with her father, Matthew Hester, for a scheduled visitation that weekend. But what had once been a simple custody arrangement had grown bitter and dangerous in the years leading up to Anne's murder. Anne and Matthew had met years earlier at a local gaming store. Both were fans of tabletop role-playing games, and their connection was instant. In 2008, they married. Their daughter was born in 2011, but the relationship began to unravel soon after. The couple agreed to try an open marriage, but when Matthew broke the rules they'd both agreed on, trust collapsed. By 2012, they were divorced. Anne was granted full custody. Anne worked hard, balancing her job at a Portland call center with parenting. She moved into a small apartment with her daughter and tried to keep life stable. But Matthew made that difficult. He rarely paid child support. He lost jobs often. Eventually, he brought a roommate into his home, Angela McCraw, a single mother with 3 kids of her own. What started as roommates turned into romance. Within a year, Matthew and Angela married. And that's when the real trouble started. Angela didn't want shared custody. She wanted full custody of Matthew and Anne's daughter. Together, Angela and Matthew filed court documents claiming Anne was an unfit mother. The battle dragged on. Anne kept fighting, providing for her daughter, maintaining a stable home. But Matthew and Angela's living situation was chaotic and unclean. Friends said they lived in squalor. Even more disturbing, Angela insisted that her children had various mental disorders and needed medications. Her ex-husband claimed Angela was obsessed with labeling the children with disabilities to collect state benefits. Angela began insisting that Matthew's daughter, Anne's child, had bipolar disorder too. Anne refused to accept that diagnosis and believed it was just another attempt to cash in. In May 2016, just a month before Anne's death, a judge ruled in Anne's favor. She would retain full custody. The judge ordered Matthew to pay over $13,000 in back child support and nearly $30,000 in legal fees. The ruling enraged Angela and Matthew, and then Anne was killed. When detectives interviewed Matthew, he claimed he was home with Angela and their children all night. He denied knowing anything about what had happened to Anne. But as they were questioning him, security footage arrived from Anne's apartment building. On it, they saw a car that matched Matthew and Angela's. When asked why their vehicle was seen near the crime scene that night, Matthew offered no real explanation, just that he was asleep and couldn't say for sure. Angela's interview raised even more red flags. She told detectives that she'd vomited on herself that night and Matthew had helped her clean up. A strange detail, and one Matthew had completely failed to mention. Detectives dug deeper. Crime scene investigators recovered several bloody knives and a bloody boot print. That print, it turned out, matched a boot Angela had purchased in 2015. Forensics would eventually find DNA evidence on one of the knives. It belonged to Angela McCraw Hester. The motive came into sharp focus. Angela and Matthew had just lost their custody battle. Matthew owed thousands of dollars, and there was another disturbing clue: a $100,000 life insurance policy in Anne's name. Matt wasn't listed as a beneficiary, but right after Anne's death, he called the insurance company anyway, trying to find out if he could collect. On October 3, 2017, Angela McCraw Hester was arrested and charged with aggravated murder and burglary. During questioning, Matthew turned on her. He claimed she had come home covered in blood the night of Anne's murder. He said he helped her clean up, but insisted he hadn't known what she had done. 2 years later, in 2019, Matthew Hester was also arrested. He was charged with solicitation to commit murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and hindering prosecution. In November 2020, Angela took a plea deal. She admitted guilt to 1 count of second-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. Matthew, too, eventually pled guilty. In 2021, he admitted to solicitation and hindering prosecution. He was sentenced to 56 months in prison, just under 5 years. He was released in March 2023. Angela and Matthew divorced while in prison. Angela's children were placed in foster care. Anne's daughter now lives with her maternal grandparents, safe from the people who destroyed her mother's life. Annastasia Hester's voice on that final 911 call will never be forgotten. In her last moments, she fought to survive. And even though she didn't live to see justice, her strength led investigators straight to the truth.